Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please know that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches, or alternatively, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, you may apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording the meeting. Your video or audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Please welcome our club president, DTM, Andy Byrne.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm excited to see many guests here tonight. That's a sign of a growing, vibrant club, and I'm excited to see everybody here. I'm looking forward to the guest speaker, the Yoodli partnership with Toastmasters, and I've experimented with it myself, and I think you're all going to enjoy the knowledge and expertise that will be brought by our guest speaker. As I talked about earlier, we're looking forward to be in the Super 7 Club, which means that all 7 of our officers have had their training completed and reported to Toastmasters by the end of this month, which is coming by Wednesday. There are other events that are taking place of note, but we'll talk about that at another time. But the most important thing is to keep the club in good position with growing membership. And that's where Sarah is taking place as the treasurer. Make sure that in the next week or 10 days, you make sure that you've renewed and go through Sarah so that the club gets credit for your renewal. That's all I have to say at this point in time. Back to you.
And it's now to start our meeting, and we have a great Toastmaster of the day. He's David Carr. Welcome, David. Woo!
Thank you, Carolina. So the theme of the meeting just got added to the agenda seconds ago, and it is organic intelligence, because we're going to be talking a bit about artificial intelligence. But it'd be nice to think that some of the old wetware still works and still has some advantages. It strikes me as interesting that one of the things that people are so excited about with artificial intelligence at the moment is showing how it can be creative, but also erratic and wrong. In fact, ChatGPT would be a superb table topics contestant because it would respond with a confident answer whether or not it knows what it's talking about. And so that's something we may hear about. Now, Yoodli, interesting. And I do want to once again credit Joni for making the introduction, recruiting our guest speaker. But Yoodli, when this was announced, the Toastmasters International was going to do something innovative with technology, my first instinct was to roll my eyes, because Toastmasters doing something innovative with technology, but actually it is. It is interesting. It's kind of cool. It's not going to replace the human evaluator, but actually what Matt Kinsey recommends in his intro video to the product is that you use it for your preparation ahead of time to get some feedbacks on those ums and ahs and repetitive words and things that you might approve. So let the computer do what the computer can do. Now, I don't see our guest speaker yet. He did say that he was going to come in towards the end of the meeting. we actually may see a little robot pop up on the screen before the end of the meeting to monitor and to count my ums. And so, one thing I have discovered is that this software is an absolutely brutal counter. Maybe that's what I need. I don't know. Some of you can be pretty brutal too, but I know it's for my own good. My job as Toastmaster of the day is to run a well-organized meeting. I have some folks who are going to help me out with that, starting with our timer, Sarah. Sarah, can you explain what you'll be doing as timer this evening?
Thank you, Toastmaster David. This evening, as timer, I'll be keeping track of all of the time throughout the meeting, especially during the speaking. For the speaker number one, it'll be 5 to 7 minutes. At the 5 minutes, you will see a green background. And at the 6 minutes, you will see a yellow background. And at the 7 minute, you would have a red background. You have 30 seconds to wrap it up. For our speaker number two, it's 10 minutes to 10 to 12 minutes. So at 10 minutes, you'll see the green. At 11, you'll see the yellow. And at 12, you'll see the red. And you have 12 minutes to wrap it up. As far as the others, for our evaluators, they're 2 to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, green. At 2.5, yellow. And at 3 minutes, red. And for our table topics, 1 to 2 minutes, it'll be 1 minute green, 1.5 minute yellow, and 2 minute red. Back to you, David.
Thank you, Sarah. For a grammarian, the agenda says George Fridge, which has me a little bit puzzled. That's Sunny. It's you, Sunny?
Yeah, how did my hubby's name get there? I am the grammarian for tonight, and as grammarian, it's my responsibility to take a good listen to all speakers, to be looking for good and bad use of the English language and any interesting words, quotes, or sayings that I will hear along the way. I'm looking forward to giving my report when called upon by the general evaluator. Back to you.
Right. And our watcher this evening, is Isabel here? I don't know if I've seen her.
I don't see her.
No. Can somebody step in as watcher for this evening? A volunteer for watcher. Andy, can you take that? All right. Andy, can you explain what the watcher does?
A watcher is someone that actively looks at your screen, how you position yourself on your screen, what's going on your screen, how is your lighting, and what gestures you're making. So I do that and give a report at the end of the meeting.
We also have a chat monitor, which is Kim Leeming.
Hi, thank you, David. Yes, I am Kim Leeming. Tonight I will be your chat monitor. So here at Online Presenters, since we are a online only club, we do have some unique roles. So the watcher, who just described his role, Andy, is one of those unique to Online Presenters, as well as mine as a chat monitor. So often we have a very active chat, and I will be reporting, and I probably just got counted for an on Yoodli, but I will be reporting at the end of the meeting about what we see happening in the chat. So thank you very much. Back to you, David, Toastmaster of the Day.
David?
Wonderful. Yes.
Mario had raised his hand before.
For
Kim.
Oh, okay. For doing a vote counter?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Louise Brown, she's also is the vote counter. So who's going to be the vote counter?
Could you be the chat monitor and Lou will be our vote counter?
But chat monitor, I monitor what?
Not chat monitor, counter. Can you be our counter for this evening?
It's going to be a breeze, so sure. Louis, whatever. I'm
happy to do either. Whatever you like, Mario.
Mario is a guest, so I'm happy to do, since I'm a member and not down to do anything, I'm happy for him to do it, but I'm also willing to take on any role that you need, Mr. Toastmaster.
I can help too.
To
mean,
add a little bit extra work for myself so I can get warmed up for the contest, I'll be the counter, and Louis, remain what you are.
Okay, all right.
And I'll just rename myself real quick.
All right, thank you, sir. Lou, can you explain how you'll be performing the counter, the vote counters role? Oh boy, I'm all mixed.
Certainly.
No?
Well, Mr. Toastmaster, you have created this really cool, handy dandy vote counting tool that we have. I'm going to say unique to online presenters. I will be posting a link in the chat after each speaking segment. Folks can simply click that link, vote for their favorite speaker, and I will tally the results, report back at the end of the meeting.
Guests are welcome to vote.
And guests are welcome to vote.
All right. I think then we are ready for the first portion of our meeting, which we have set up to be the formal speeches. Come first. We'll come back for table topics, and then we'll do evaluations. And again, at the end, we have our guest speaker scheduled to show up. I'm not nervous yet, but I may be shortly. Our first speaker this evening is Carolina Ramírez. She is working out of the Dynamics Leadership Level 2, Learning Your Style, Understanding Your Communication Style. Her title is The Direct Leader. The purpose of this project is for the member to learn about different communication styles and identify their own. Carolina.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head. And it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
Yeah, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See, you're
out.
not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my...
Carolina, you're muted.
Sorry. Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. The first time I saw this video, it made me laugh. I felt a little bit identified with the man on this scene. That direct and practical way of approaching situations has always been my way to solve problems. According to the survey I took for this project, my communication style is direct. And I would like to read you this definition. This style is decisive, competitive, independent, and confident. Because the person with a direct communication style is focused, results-oriented, ambitious, goal-oriented, and driven, others may perceive her as strong-willed or demanding. She can be seen as impatient when bored. She likes to feel in control and may become frustrated if dependent on others. She measures progress by achievements and successes and is motivated by challenges. At work, she displays more concern for results than relationships and does not easily share feelings. Her pace is fast and decisive, and she likes a busy, efficient, structured, and formal environment. When I read this the first time, I thought, wow, that's powerful. This is the perfect communication style if you want to talk directly and bluntly about what is going on, what could be the root cause, and therefore the actions to take to get to the solution as quickly as possible. And this communication style would be also perfect if we only worked and lived with machines, with robots and computers. You give the input and you get a fast and correct output. However, we not only work with machines, we as well work with people, with human beings. I used to think that the less space feelings had, the better the results would be, because feelings are not very important when you are trying to solve problems. Until I realized that I am a human being surrounded by human beings, even if it seems very obvious, it has been one of my greatest learnings as a leader, and it is something that I'm still working on in my personal life and as part of my growth. I believe that one of the main things that a leader must understand and respect is diversity. Not all of us have the same way of communicating, and we don't feel the same way about different situations, which for a person can be something insignificant or of little importance. For another, it may be something very hurtful that causes pain and affects their health or their professional performance. Having empathy and understanding people, taking the time to listen and show support are the things that distinguish a good leader. I like to be a leader with a direct, decisive, and practical style. However, I recognize the importance of listening, understanding, and supporting people given the space for contention. These things that I mentioned can mark someone else's life. When people feel safe of sharing their pain, listened, and respected, they can show their full potential and shine. We all have the potential to be that leader. We all have the potential to be the leader who illuminates the path of another human being. David, back to you.
Thank you very much. We have a second speaker. Our speaker number 2 has been making rocketing progress through her path. She is in level 5 of the humorous speaking path, the engaging speaking path, and she's doing tonight the reflect on your path speech, which is getting ready to wrap things up. So reminder, the timer, this is going to be a 10 to 12 minute speech. She's going to summarize her experience with the engaging humor path and what she's learned through the journey. Trish, the stage is yours.
Hello, good evening, fellow Toastmasters friends and guests. I wanted you to see my background and hopefully everybody would smile, at least starting with my speech. This is my reflection speech for the engaging humor path. So I'm going to talk about levels 1 through 5 and my experience. But here's my start. November 1st, 2019. 3 years, 4 months, 25 days ago, I started with online presenters Toastmasters, and I have never looked back. A very good choice. I came into Toastmasters with an experience with education. I teach online and continue to serve in that capacity today. There's a statement that says, we all make mistakes, and mistakes make us. What does that mean to you? To me, it means there's no winners and losers. We're all winners and learners. So we have to be positive and learn from our mistakes. This is my path reflection, again, on engaging humor, levels 1 through 5, what I've learned, my speeches, my topics, information from my evaluation, feedback, how I've taken the feedback and used it for follow-up speeches, what I've learned, how I've grown, and how I've improved. I'm a work in progress. You see, a sense of humor isn't exactly the most natural trait I have. I tend to be more serious, but I'm learning to lighten up. Smell the roses. I've had a speech on that. And apply the concept that humor, laughter is like good medicine and helps with a merry heart. Before we start with level 1, let me see you guys smile. What did one DNA say to another DNA? Do those genes make me look fat? G-E-N-E-S. Level 1 of the engaging humor path is like any other path. It starts with an icebreaker. Following the icebreaker, my first speech was on slang language. Now, let me say, I belonged to 2 clubs at the time. I joined online in 2019, and my corporate club had an online moment where they were online for a couple of years through 2022. So I was in 2 clubs, and I started with this path with that club. So you didn't get the joy of listening to that speech or some of the others. Research and presenting, my topic was on climate change is real and living a cause-driven life. If you know me, that's one of my passions. What did I learn from this path? I learned strategies for taking feedback from the evaluations and applying them for follow-up speeches to improve, like we all want to. I learned the difference between feedback, which is factual information, and advice, which is suggested subjective opinion. Funny number 2. What happens to an illegally parked frog? What happens to an illegally parked frog? It gets towed away, T-O-A-D. Level 2. This was all about knowing your sense of humor. Finding the funny side of life was my topic, my speech. Also, connecting with your audience. I talked about growing your bubbles, and I also talked about my experience as a mentor and mentee. Humor can be a great connection and a bridge between divides. It connects the speaker to their audience. It's a highly effective skill, but it's very challenging to acquire. Not my best trait, but it can be a great trait to use to connect with your audience. What is my humor type, humor style, you ask? It's the most common, observational. It's what we laugh about in our daily lives. A baby laughing, one of my favorites, dogs playing, etc. We got to add another funny here. Why aren't dogs good dancers? Why aren't dogs good dancers? Because they have 2 left feet. Have you ever heard that one? Level 3, engaging humor. Engaging your audience with humor. This was one of my favorite speeches. You did not get to hear it, but let me tell you about it. It was called A Dog and Cat's Tale. This speech, after I used it at my other club, I actually got to speak again at a district contest. I won 3rd place, so that was a good experience. I also had 2 elective speeches with this level: effective body language, communicating with body language and gestures, and active listening. What did I learn from this level? The importance of recognizing the characteristics of your audience and relating to them with your speech. I also learned about, listen to this one. Did you know adults only remember 25 to 50% of the information they hear? Did you hear that? I also learned about the differences between hearing and listening. Listening involves verbal and nonverbal communication. And that Good communicators and leaders use active listening. Funny number 4. What is a bear with no teeth? A bear with no teeth. A gummy bear. Level 4. This involved the power of an impromptu speech. I did an elective speech. This wasn't so humorous, but it was a good experience. I talked about public relations and my experience with my hobby sideline business, all natural care pantry gift baskets. I got to use project management strategies, skills that I learned, and develop a plan for my business. I also did 2 other speeches, managing projects successfully, where I also incorporated project management skills and developed phases of a project, and managing online businesses. What did I learn from this level? That humorous speeches requires the audience participation. Being aware of the personalities and the characteristics of your audience helps you to relate to them and speak to them. And of course, understanding your audience helps you to prepare for your speech better. I think I have one more funny. Knock, knock. Who's there?
Why?
Noble. Noble who? No bell. So I knock, knock. Level 5. Level 5 of engaging humor path involved lessons learned. That was my most recent speech. I have one speech to complete. This reflection speech was supposed to be the last one, so you'll get to hear me again before I finish this path. Excuse me. I presented a summary of what I learned with my experience with Toastmasters, why I joined, what I achieved, how I've been able to use the feedback from my evaluations of my speeches for follow-up speeches to make improvements, improved with my listening skills, communication skills, presentation skills over time. In conclusion, I've described my journey with engaging humor path levels 1 through 5, what I learned, my topics, how I've used the information in my speeches and the feedbacks, how I've appreciated and learned more of an understanding of the value of humor in communication, and especially using humor as a leader and a communicator. This does not come naturally to me. This has been a challenging path, but a rewarding one. Very thankful. But humor is a part of our daily lives, and it's going to be more so with mine. Thank you.
All right. We got to hear jokes about jokes. Thank you very much, Tricia. Moving right along, we have a portion of the meeting involving impromptu speaking, our table topics, exercise, and I also believe our guest speaker is either in the room or his bot is in the room. One way or another, table topic speakers, you might get some robotic feedback a little bit later. But our topics master for the evening is Mike Woodall. Mike, get folks thinking on their feet, or even if they're sitting down, get them to simulate that however you can.
Well, thank you, David Carr, for that introduction to the table topic session. I'm pretty strict on my table topics moves. I never ask for volunteers. So if you're waiting for me to ask for a volunteer, you are not in a safe zone here. You will not know that you're getting the question, and I will call on you. And that is what we call impromptu. Are we ready to get started? Evie Hartman, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I can.
You know, there was a great wise man, guru, who stated, ever since birth, until now, every experience that we've ever had plants a seed within our soul. What does that mean to you?
Oh, wow. That is an incredible way to think about your life, I think, because like when I was growing up, when I was around high school, college age, I was kind of in a situation where I had a lot of family members telling me what I should do with my life. And like we all have, you know, but I had a lot of interests. Like I'm definitely on the ADHD special interest side of life. That's how I live. It's what I love. And I had a lot of different interests that they kind of seemed to not think I could turn into a career, at least one befitting my status as a female member of their family. They tried pushing me into nursing. They tried like, you know, you should really do something where you can have kids and still have a job and stuff. And I liked computers, and they didn't like that I liked computers. But when I was growing up, a little bit before they had a lot of influence over my life, I was building these little websites and just tinkering with all this stuff just in my spare time. Had no one to bother me, had no one to stop me. And that really stuck with me because just this past year, I've been learning, you know, JavaScript and PHP and all of these different coding languages in the attempt to launch a product and multiple products. There's so many things I want to do. And finally getting back to that point where I was like, I realized I hated WordPress one day, and I was like, I went and I took everything out of there and just started with bare HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And in that moment, I was like, wow, I feel just like I did when I was 11. So those tiny things that mean a lot to you, they're not adding something to your life necessarily. My theory is that they're teaching you about something that's already there inside you. And so I try to carry that with me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Evie. Thank you. And for the first time since I've ever done table topics, I'm going to ask Mansour Hasid.
Yes.
The same question. A guru once said that ever since birth, every experience that we have had plants a seed within our soul. What say you, Mansour?
I think you are 100% correct. Your question reminds me of my father, who led by example. He taught me a lot of things I should not do. He was generous and innovative with punishment and never needed a reason. If we were out in the yard and his leather belt wasn't handy, he creatively discovered a new use for young papaya plants. These experiences left permanent scars on my mind and body. But I actually celebrate that he was my father, because without him and his imperfections as a human being, I would never have had such a perfect negative example to follow. But before you think and feel sorry for me that I had a bad childhood, know that my mom taught me leadership and positive life lessons, while my dad was a perfect negative example. That, Table Topics Master, was a perfect childhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mansour. And we are running low on time. I have time for one more. And we're going to give this one to Sunny Fridge. You know, Sunny Fridge, can you unmute yourself? Thank you. Every time I read your name, I think of sweet tea. opening up a refrigerator and getting some good Southern sweet tea, Sunny Fridge. Every time I see your name, I think of sweet tea. But that's not your table topics question. Sunny, what is the greatest mistake you have ever made? And what lesson did you learn by it?
That's a great question. What is the greatest mistake I've ever made? And what did I learn from it?
Or how did it make you better?
I believe that I continually make mistakes. But one mistake that I made was that for a while, I always thought that failure was not an option. And when I became a John Maxwell coach, I actually learned that failure is an option because you can fail forward.
Yes.
And my students at one time thought I was so inspirational. Oh, Dr. Fritz, that sounds so good. Failure is not an option. But no, failure is an option. Quitting isn't. That's what I learned. And it's allowed me to make many mistakes because sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. So that is one mistake that I may have made, but it still has helped me to fail forward to who I am becoming. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Sunny. Thank you. And with that, I will hand the meeting back over to our Toastmaster, Mr. David Carr.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for the table topics, and thank you for the time management too. That's very good. It's now part of our meeting where we go to feedback. Now we're going to get some extra AI-powered feedback even after that. But first, let's get a little bit of an organic intelligence going here in the meeting with our general evaluator, Joni Laidlaw, to lead us through the evaluation portion of the meeting.
Thank you to our Toastmaster of the day, which we seem to have something in common. I'm hearing the rasp in the voice, or were we both trying to be robotically speaking to get in the theme? We'll find out as we go along. Now, the first person I'm gonna ask to provide me with a report is our timer. Madam Timer, may I have the times for the speeches?
For our first speaker, Carolina, 6 minutes, 4 seconds. For our second speaker, Tricia, 9 minutes, 30 seconds. For our table topics, Evie, 2 minutes. Mansour, 1 minute, 45 seconds. And Sunny Fridge, 1 minute, 24 seconds. Back to you, General Evaluator.
And for our table topic? Oh, you did state, or did I not actively listen? Organic
table topics, Evie, 2 minutes. Mansour, 1 minute, 45 seconds. And Sunny Fridge, 1 minute, 24 seconds.
Thank you for that report, Madam Timer. Shows that I was not actively listening, and sometimes why you need backup with organic intelligence. I'm not certain if our Toastmaster of the day had an oversight as it relates to our guest speaker, or was planning to actually do it at the end, or was it the intent for me to introduce our guest speaker?
Our guest speaker asked to go later in the meeting, so it'll be after the evaluation portion. And so if we could try and wrap up the.
All right, thank you so much, Toastmaster David. Next to the virtual space, we have the part of the meeting that I love, which is feedback. I'll start by calling our first evaluator to the virtual space, Sawyer.
I think that would be me. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, my fellow Toastmasters, our guests, and especially, of course, Toastmaster Carolina Ramírez. Carolina, you are an accomplished presenter, and you once again demonstrated tonight all the skills that you have acquired here at Online Presenters. You gave an enjoyable and informative presentation. Combination is sometimes a tough thing to do, but you balanced it very well. Vocally, you were articulate, you varied the pacing of your presentation. Well, putting it in one word, you were conversational. You didn't speak to us, you definitely didn't preach to us, you were conversational. You were having a conversation with us, and that was done so well. Visually, you opened, I loved that, you opened with an entertaining video. You captured us, we weren't quite sure where you were going with that, but when you ended, everybody was smiling, everybody was laughing. That was a great way to open your presentation. When you came on screen, you were well positioned in the visual frame, your lighting was effective, everything worked there. I have a couple of suggestions for you. They're not great, but it's just little things to think about. The first one of them is visual and one of them is vocal. Vocally, this is, again, as I say, it's minor, but towards the beginning of your presentation, you said, I would like to read you the definition. No, a direct leader does not like to do something. A direct reader simply goes ahead and does it. So it would be better if you said, here is the definition, rather than saying, I would like to read you the definition. Minor little thing. The other thing is visual. You can see up here, this is what we saw. You had some great gestures. Unfortunately, your gestures tended to be down here, so that we could see that you were doing something. I think you're giving a gesture right there, but we can't see what it is. Your visual framing was good, but get your gestures a little bit higher, get them beside your head, beside your face, basically, unless you're going to be further back from the camera, in which case the lower gestures will work. But again, these are small suggestions for how to improve a very good presentation, very accomplished, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to do next time. I have one other thing to say before I go, and that is, of course, robotically. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, our evaluator, Jim Barber, for that not robotically speaking evaluation, and remembering to throw the word of the day into that delicious sandwich. Next to the virtual space, I will be calling our second evaluator, Angela Keith, to do her evaluation. Virtual space is yours.
Fellow Toastmasters, and especially Tricia Smith, thank you so much for that speech. You have completed 5 levels. You should be proud of yourself. We were all so excited for you. And you started your speech by saying, look at this funny background, because you were showing us your path for the pathway on engaging humor. And you started right out at the very beginning, letting us know that this is the purpose of the speech. There are 2 things, Tricia, that you did so extremely well. I want to share that with you right away. The first thing is, I don't think I've ever heard a presentation that was walking us through their Toastmasters journey as clear as yours. It was so easy to follow. I understood exactly what you did on every level. And you also had the little funnies in between to remind us the path was about engaging humor. But just the organization of your speech was just perfect. Loved it. I also love your vocal varieties. You have a beautiful voice. It is so clear. Your enunciation is so precise. You're really good at using pauses. So I really love just listening to your presentation. That was excellent. Now, I see a smile on your face right now, Tricia, and that is one of my challenges to you. You did a humorous speech, but I only saw you smile really big one time. And that's when you actually said, ha. And that was so perfect. For a humorous speech, I was expecting you to laugh a little bit more. I'm reminded of Les Brown. Many of us know him. He's a professional speaker. He laughs at his own humor all the time, and he causes everybody else to laugh. I challenge you, laugh when you're adding your humor. The other thing that I would challenge you to do, Tricia, is stand, because I did see a couple gestures, but you're such a professional speaker. I would challenge you to stand so we can see more gestures for you. And finally, my last challenge for you, smile when you end, especially when you're talking about engaging humor. Overall, very good speech. I could follow it to a T. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for all of that hard work. Back over to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Angela. I acquired from you and really like artificial intelligence can never replace your you-ness. And I like how you incorporated all of that you-ness and animation in your feedback. Intelligence and not robotically speaking. Try to move along quickly because we have a special guest. So we're going to start out with our account.
Mario, are you available? Could you give us our counters report?
So it was me. I wasn't sure. You said counter, but that I was very subtle. All right, people. Here's how we're gonna do it. I went a little bit overboard with the analysis because, as I do, a lot of you have elongations when you're starting a sentence, or in between sentences you have this, or in the beginning. So to summarize, let's see, okay. Carolina Ramirez had 3 in the beginning of a sentence and 1 in between, intrasentential. Hail, try to, now this is outside of an accounter's job, but minimize that because you're searching for words and you kind of, nobody notices this, but I pick up on the minutia and try to nullify. Really listen to your, when you're analyzing your own speech, analyze the visual, then turn off the video and analyze what you hear. You'll see the very little subtle difference. Overall, the rest is clear. Miss Smith, Patricia, second speaker, took her rumps when you were talking for an extended period of time. A harump means when you clear your throat, and you were kind of, it's not advised to take a sip of water during a speech, but at the end of the day, speakers or stand-up comics who talk for an extended period of time take a sip of water. So it's okay to take a sip of water so you replenish the vocal cords. Otherwise, yeah, you had a few elongated words, but no fillers. You had 2 in the beginning of the sentence, 2 deep inhales, and 1 in between a sentence. Overall, it was okay. David Carr, you had 1 but it was subtle. TT and Mike Woodall, 1 harump. Again, when you were explaining that you take no mercy on the impromptu, the extended part, again, elongated speaking, and very subtle, but it was there. Another harump. Okay. TTS1, Heavy Hartman, clear across the board. I love Mansur Hasib's staccato pacing when he had my loving father. Now this, again, is not a filler, but I don't know. I wanted to point out when you're tum, 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 you have like a staccato pacing, and I encourage everyone else to incorporate that more. Otherwise, you had one elongated because you were a bit nervous when you were talking about your parents. My mom, it was an elongated, so focus on your emotions. Don't focus on your emotions that much. Let's see. Jim Barber had one ah and one elongated so. Angela Heath had two ahs. And G.E. Joe Ledlow had one elongated and. That would be all.
Definitely demonstrating active listening there, picking up and not only stating the ahs, but making suggestions on how we can improve. And you learn something new every day. I didn't know that there was a name for. Thank you for giving me something to go and research. Next to our virtual space, I will be calling our watcher to let us know, what did you see?
Thank you very much, Joni. The first thing I'd like to say is, as you scan the framing of the group, for the most part, everybody's at least center stage, and that's a good thing. The second thing is, when some speakers, for example, when Trish was doing her speech, she had an interesting background that added to her speech. There are other people that, when they speak, are not adding. If you look down on the first page on the right corner, you'll see Carl Walsh's frame, and you'll see that he has the Ukrainian flag on one side and the American flag on the other side. This is called framing. He is dead center on the screen, and he's got on either side of him the two flags, which accentuate the fact that he's in a central position. So that's excellent use of his background. Others do not. Jim Barber, for example, always has a reflection of what he's seeing as part of his Manycam image, and that's great. You have individuals like Petra, who would benefit from blurring her background. The black background that she has is more distracting and doesn't add to her presence. Sunny Fridge has a background that isolates her and accentuates her persona on the screen. So these are things that one would look for as your watcher. There's the rule of nines, where you divide the screen into thirds and another set of thirds in each direction, and you want to be dead center in that from a photographic standpoint, unless you're trying to call attention to you. Graham has an example of a background that has a lot of writing that's hard to read. So that's really distracting, and that doesn't add to what he's doing right now. I end my report now.
Thank you, Andy. Now I know there's a phrase, active listening, but I'm going to have to create one for you. So would that be organically watching or actively watching, to explain the detail with which you just gave your report? Thank you.
Situational awareness.
There you go. Something else. I again learned something new twice in one day that I have to go and look up. Next, in Jamaica, when you talk a lot, we say you chat too much. So every single time I think chatty, I'm not thinking chatty Cathy doll. I'm thinking you chat too much or you talk too much. Toastmaster Kim, let me know which one of it was in our chat.
Thank you, Joni, General Evaluator. So as far as the chatty title on mine, I've been accused of being chatty pretty much every day of my entire life. But the chat was very, very interesting today. And as usual, everybody was very encouraging. That's one thing I really enjoy about online presenters is everybody's very encouraging to everyone else and very complimentary. So that was very nice to see. Nobody was robotically giving input. They were actually seemed very, very genuine. So people seem to enjoy Carolina's, I'm sorry, Carolina, on your name, introductory video and your speech in general. Everybody really enjoyed the whole thing. And then Tricia, we all enjoyed your jokes. It was nice to put a smile on our face, and everyone enjoyed your speech as well. There was also chat about Mario's thorough counter report and the fact that we learned about throat clearing, which I should have my frog here today to do that this week. Other than that, that's it for me. I thoroughly enjoyed the meeting. Love always again to see the encouragement in the chat. And back to you, Joni, General Evaluator.
Thank you for your observation as well, and for not being too chatty in your evaluation. And yes, I did leave the grammarian for last, specifically because of what Kim did. I needed us to sneak in some more robotics in our language to make sure our grammarian could give us an excellent report. Grammarian, how well did we do today?
Madam General Evaluator, we did very well because I did not find too many improper grammatical uses. There was one from Angela Heath. She said, start it right out. We could just shorten that a bit and just say, start it out. I found several quotes and sayings that I thought were nice. Tricia Smith said, we all make mistakes and mistakes make us. I like that. And of course, I could have written down every one of her jokes, but one I did write down was about the DNA, saying to the other DNA, do these genes make me look fat? I definitely chuckled. Angela Heath, follow it to a T. Mario, pick up on the minutia. And he also taught me a new word. And finally, I like my word, failing forward. I hope there wasn't anything robotic about that. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
I like your word as well. And I always say Toastmasters is a great place to fail forward.
Amen.
Learn by doing here. Excellent grammarian report. Mrs. Fridge, because I still have George and I nearly called you George. Finally, let me sum up our meeting. Our meeting did start on time. Excellent. Our guests were so warmly welcomed by our Sergeant at Arms. Now, I'll take half the fault as General Evaluator, but I'll share half with our Toastmaster of the day as it relates to the juggling of the functionaries. Sometimes we take for granted that everything's in place and we go, let the show go on, especially as advanced Toastmasters. Thank you for jumping in, President Andy, to fill in so quickly in the role when you were called, as well as I do believe it was Mario who so ably filled in his role. Overall, it's always an excellent meeting here at Online Presenters, and I am not going to chat too much because I can't wait to hear more about Yoodli from a Yoodli ambassador. And as Sunny said to me, is Yoodli awesome? Well, now everybody's going to get to hear about it, and I return control of the virtual space for Toastmaster of the Day, David Carr.
Thank you, Joni. Well, welcome to our guest speaker, Sharan, who's going to give us a little bit more depth. Now, I have to admit, even though I had heard about this technology, again, I tend to roll my eyes when I say Toastmasters being innovative with technology, but actually they're doing pretty well here. Or at least they're not necessarily the ones creating it, but they recognized that it was something that was good and useful, and it was worth sharing with this community. Now, like a good person doing the MC duties, I did ask how to pronounce Sharan's last name. I'm not even sure I'm getting his first name right. And he actually gave it to me on video, so I could go back and listen and get it right. And I'm still going to let him introduce himself. But one of the things I noticed on his LinkedIn profile is he mentions that he was intrigued, among other things, about the potential of this tool for helping English as a second language speakers, or potentially people who are in another country speaking English, and English is not the language of that locale, and being able to get some coaching on coming up to speed on their business language, their business presentation, as well as what it's doing for us as Toastmasters. And there were other aspects of the product that you can talk about. I know that Sharan is somebody who has studied and knows the engineering end of machine learning, artificial intelligence technologies, but as a head of product, he's also a business leader. He's getting the technology and translating it into business value and value for all of you. So welcome, Sharan. Tell us a little bit more about Yoodli and how we can use it effectively. And for those who haven't tried it yet, give them enough of a taste that they're gonna have to go check it out.
Absolutely. David, thank you for such a warm introduction, and thank you all for having me. I know it's quite late where you all are, so I will do my best to keep this entertaining and engaging. As David mentioned, my name is Sharan Jhangiani. I lead product at Yoodli, which basically means I spend my days talking to really, really, really cool people and learning from them how we can help them become better speakers. Because at the end of the day, my goal is to help everyone and everyone speak with confidence. There's far too many people in this world who don't back themselves and as a result get left behind. From the engineer from Malaysia who doesn't look at me in the eye during an interview because they think it might be rude, and henceforth doesn't look and appear confident and maybe doesn't get the job, to that student in the back of the classroom who's so afraid of looking silly or dumb or saying the wrong thing that they just don't say anything at all. Or to that introvert who's finally scored that first date with their crush, but is so scared of saying the wrong thing, they say nothing at all. So many of us have been here, and I have too. In high school, I was that kid in the back of the classroom. My headphones were on, my hood was on. I'd do everything I could to avoid attention. And when I did get called on, or when I was required to speak, my cheeks would get all rosy, my hands would get all palmy and sweaty. And even if I knew what I wanted to say, it just would not come out right. I was really lucky. I had a teacher who stepped in and helped me and told me I had a beautiful voice and took the time after school to help me go through lessons and practices and enjoy and find that love within my voice, doing activities similar to what we do in Toastmasters. I changed immediately and I fell in love with speaking. I participated in business competitions. I went and spoke in front of my entire graduating class, and then I even gave a TED Talk. And now here I am today. And so the goal with Yoodli is, can we help that immigrant who's applying for that job? Can we help that student in the back of the classroom like I used to be? Can we help that introvert on their first date? And we think that technology can help. Who here's heard of Grammarly? Okay, quite a few. Awesome. And who here's heard of Duolingo?
Same.
Awesome, quite a few. The goal with Yoodli is to do what Grammarly's done for writing and what Duolingo's done for language learning, but to do the same for speech and communication. Now, let's be super, super clear. Yoodli and AI will not replace the human speaking experience, right? It will not replace the Toastmasters experience, and it won't even come close to replacing the individual speaking experience. Because speech is so deeply human. It's so emotional, and it requires people to be at the core of it. But what we can do with technology is make it easier for people to learn and improve and help augment their experience as they become better speakers. We work really closely with Toastmaster world champions like Ed Tate, Craig Valentine, Mark Brown, to make sure that as we build Yoodli, We're building it with humanity and humility at its core. Okay, that's enough talking from me. I'd love to show you all what Yoodli actually looks like. So if you allow me, I'm going to share my screen. And where is my share screen button? Awesome. And is that visible by everyone?
Indeed it is.
Lovely, thank you.
It's
This is
visible.
so when you join Yoodli, this is what you're visited by. You've got a few tutorials on how to use the tool, as well as a warm video from Matt Kinsey, International President, welcoming you and explaining the partnership. Yoodli is free and accessible for every Toastmasters member and a specific special Toastmaster experience. So there's a few things you can do in Yoodli. Let's assume I'm practicing for a Pathways presentation. And let's say I'm really nervous and I'm like, I just really need to go practice. And maybe historically I would go practice in the mirror. With Yoodli, we built the smart mirror. So if you go to the top right corner on Yoodli and you hit record and you click speech, you can go in here and give a practice speech about anything you want to give. Does anyone want to throw a prompt at me or a topic at me? And I'll give a 1-minute speech and try my best to be somewhat coherent.
Abstinence.
Sorry, what was that?
Abstinence.
In what context?
From using too much Yoodli.
Seriously. A time when you had to abstain for religious or social reasons.
Okay, let's say abstain from alcohol. Abstinence.
Okay, let's try that one. Wow. Oof. Okay. Oof.
Good luck.
Abstinence, especially from alcohol, is actually quite a difficult thing to do. And let me tell you why. As a 23-year-old male in Seattle, Washington, it's really difficult when every weekend, the majority of the people in my age demographic spend their nights and evenings hanging out at bars or going to clubs or just generally drinking. As someone who sees the side of not drinking, the health benefits of avoiding alcohol and conducting abstinence, it's really challenging to not feel that social FOMO. I'm going to start speaking really fast and use a lot of filler words here. Alcohol is it's not good for you because when you wake up the next morning, your head hurts sometimes, and maybe it'll make you throw up, and it's just like really not that great sometimes, and like the alcohol doesn't even taste that good, and like I don't really know why people drink it because it's just like not that great. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. That was quite a mess. Sorry about that. I'm gonna hit save recording. And let's imagine that was my speech. Instantaneously, I've got a transcript of everything that I've said, along with a lot of really interesting metrics on the right side. I can play back the video and just look at what I said. So this is how we call our smart mirror view. On the right side, we've got my counter. We can see right where I started using all my filler words, from 6 right at the start where I said, I'm going to start speaking really fast and use a lot of filler words here. So like, y'all get the point. I can then see, hey, interesting. I have a lot of filler words in this section. And let's assume this is like a 30-minute long speech. Now I can say, oh, wow, interesting. At minute 27, I had 15 filler words. Maybe I need to go revise that specific section. Or let's assume I'm looking at my analytics and I say, interesting, my top keywords were like, that's not great. The second most frequent keyword was alcohol. That makes sense, but maybe I should have talked more about abstinence. The topic of this conversation was abstinence. I should have made abstinence a more frequent keyword. What I can do up here is I'll also just quickly title the speech, alcohol and abstinence. If I go to the left bar, I can also go ahead and look at my pacing. And wow, look at that. We can see right where I started to take up and speak really, really quickly. Yoodli provides a lot of really valuable metrics that help you as you develop your speech and practice, gain insight into how you're speaking, specifically from the delivery standpoint. It's a great way for you to learn and grow about certain aspects of your speaking ability. I'm going to stop there for a quick second and see if anyone has any questions. Yes. My Zoom bot is blocking that. Is it Mario?
Indeed it is. All right, Sharan Jhangiani. I'm going to butcher your last name. Jhangiani.
Yeah.
In how many languages is the tool translated? And does it cover only alphabet? Like, does it cover also Cyrillic? If I were to speak in Slavic, will it also use non-Latin alphabet? Is it, or is that like, or Arabic or Chinese? I know that's way down the road, but is it feasible with the current pace of development of your tool?
So right now we're English only, and for the foreseeable future, I think the plan is to stick English only. The reason for that is we want to be very intentional about building the right product. And so that's why we work with incredible ambassadors like Joni to ensure that we're building the right product that's useful for people like all of us. Eventually, we'd love to get there, but it's something that's quite far down the line. Good question. There's one more question here. Is it Charmaine or Charmaine?
You're muted, Charmaine. Charmaine, your microphone.
Unmute.
Actually, while Charmaine is doing that, I have a question, if I may, Sharan. There are two versions of Yoodli available, one which is just at yoodli.com and the other which is via Toastmasters. Is there any appreciable difference between the two? Does it make any difference if I log into Yoodli or if I log into Yoodli via the Toastmasters website?
Absolutely. So the Toastmasters experience, or the Toastmasters Yoodli version, is customized to the Toastmasters experience. And so what I mean by that is you have specific table topics, which is a feature that doesn't exist in the normal Yoodli, as well as if you go back to a speech that you record, and this is a speech that I just recorded, the general evaluation form is a little bit more in line with what the Toastmasters experience provides. A few other small things here and there. You can generally get most of the experience from both of them, but we do heavily recommend using the Toastmasters experience as a Toastmaster member.
Ron, if I have one.
Yeah.
Is there visual feedback as well as feedback on the spoken language?
In the sense of how well are your hand gestures, your eye contact, and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, you ran your hands through your hair at one point. I was wondering if we were going to get some comments on that.
Yeah, there's nothing around specific gestures quite yet. That is something that I can say is definitely in the works right now. We do have some insight on eye contact, and sometimes this gets a little finicky. The lighting in this phone booth in particular makes my eyes look just dark the whole time. I live in this phone booth. It's not great. But we can do some insights on smiles to see how well you're smiling, and a little bit about your centering. But definitely looking to add more in terms of gestures and how we can give some feedback on body language as well. Great question, David.
I believe Charmaine's mic is now on.
Oh, yep. Go ahead, Charmaine.
My question is for a first time with Yoodli. How do you find it on the website? Like, how do you know where it's located? How do you open it up to start and that sort of thing? Because I'm new to it.
Yeah, great question. It's in your member portal. And what I'll do is, and David and Joni, if you don't mind, I'm happy to share instructions on how to get there along with the video. Would you mind passing that along so that there's
yes, we can share that with all our members as well as everybody who registered as a guest. As long as you're registered on the website as a guest, we'll get you that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries, Sharan.
Thank you.
Failing that, let me know at our next meeting, Charmaine, and I'll show you before the meeting begins. Charmaine's a member of one of them.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you.
Thank you. Janet, did you have a question?
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sharon, thank you for your presentation. I have two questions, actually. My first question, you have the share button that you are able to share your video, maybe with your coach, with your mentor. That link, it goes just for the Toastmaster person or can go to any email address? That's my first question. And my second question is, now I'm forgetting the second question. I'll go back to the second question. I have it clearly now. I can remember.
Okay. So to answer your first question is to share your speech. You can share it with anyone who this configuration here allows it so that anyone can view your link, no matter whether they're a Toastmaster member or not. However, to comment and to interact with your Yoodli, which coaches will do, like if you have a mentor and you want them to give you feedback, they need to log in so that they can add feedback at specific seconds here. So to interact, you need an account. And if you want to interact with someone who's perhaps not a Toastmaster member, you can do the same experience on the public version.
Okay, perfect. My second question, I remember what it was, is my second question was, I forgot again.
No worries. We can jump to a few more questions and then come back to you in a little bit. Is that okay?
I remember upload. When you upload a video, can you use a YouTube link? When in our club we have this YouTube link, or it have to be MP4 video, or can be a link, just any link?
It needs to be an MP4 or an MP3 video. I think there's a few other. We allow WebM videos as well. Not a YouTube one quite yet.
Okay.
Folks, I will mention we are at the official end time of our meeting. I think we, as long as Sharan can stay with us a few minutes longer. Perhaps we'd like to chat a little bit more, but if you need to leave, please feel free.
Happy to stick around. Andrew, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Here is my question. And I want you to think about using the expensive Nikon or Canon cameras, and in those cameras to help you frame your picture. For example, for the eye contact, they would have like targets so that you know where you need to put your subject. Do you envision at some point in the future, I mean, Yoodli is identifying eye contact, but is there any way that you can envision the targets of where your eyes need to be so that you are having eye contact? And what happens if you go from regular eye contact to an avatar? What does it do when it sees an avatar? Does it do anything special about that? Or does it, because the avatars are set up so that they're dead center and the eyes are to be seen clearly. But I don't know how Yoodli would respond to that in terms of giving you feedback on the fact that you're using an avatar.
Wow, I'm to be completely honest, I don't know how Yoodli interacts with an avatar. I've never seen that one before. But read your first point. I think that's a great suggestion that I will definitely take to the team and see if it's something we can implement long term in terms of giving that feedback for where your eyes should be targeted. I'd have to get back to you on that second one. I've never used Yoodli with an avatar before, but you may be our first. Awesome. Does that help, Andrew?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Excellent. Mario, did you have another question here?
Yeah, I shot your text. Did you get it?
No, sorry. I'm not reading my pings quite yet. Let me see. Awesome.
All right, that was it.
Thank you. I'll take note of that. Is it Andre?
Yes, Sharan, Andre. Hello there. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. At the same time, I'm quite curious to know. I can see that two icons about Sharan's Yoodli and Toastmasters Yoodli. So what exactly they do in our meeting? Are they spying on us? How they're going to be used? What can we do with them things?
Yeah. Great question. Actually, Joni, did you add the Toastmasters Yoodli?
I'm using the ambassadors one currently, I believe.
Awesome. Okay. Andre, to give you some context, so in the public Yoodli version, separate of the Toastmasters Yoodli, there's an option to integrate directly with Zoom calls. And so what you can do is if you share a Zoom link with our Yoodli page, Yoodli will join the call and record the call, transcribe the call, and provide analytics for everyone on the video call itself. So everyone in this room or in this Zoom meeting will have access to this recording after we share it that has analytics on how well every single one of them spoke. So all those analytics we saw over here, we can see for everyone else at the same time. So everyone in the Zoom call can get their own specified analytics for when they spoke in the meeting.
Thank
I
you.
have a little add-on to this for you. Most people like Yoodli because of ums and ahs, and it's helping if it's a second language. But I never had an issue with a second language. What I hate is writing things down from a meeting. And the beauty of this with the collaboration is that it saves you that effort and time, because you will at least be able to go back to that transcription. And with the collaborative area that it has, it helps out the secretary greatly in any online meeting, which is actually the biggest part of why I love using. And just a shameless plug, Distinguished Toastmaster 2 for Jody Laidlaw is coming up, and I know Yoodli is a lot technologically based. That's hard to learn in a short period of time. For the 1st of April, we're going to go deeper, show more, get more explanations from the team. It will give you time to play around with it and figure out all of the questions that you will have or need to know that can be demonstrated practically, because we all know how much I love practical demonstrations. And I dropped that information in the chat for everyone.
We are 5 minutes past our official meeting end time. So I would like to give Sharan a chance to give his big finish statement, or one cool more thing that he wants to show us, either or, and then we'll stop the recording. If people want to stay on and chat a little bit more informally afterwards, that's great. But Sharan, the stage is yours.
Awesome. I'll go super fast. There's one last thing that I think is super fun with Yoodli that I'd love to share before we jump out of here. We have some really fun games, and these games are a ton of fun to play. My favorite in particular is called Spin a Yarn. And if you'll give me, I'll play it for a quick 30 seconds to show you what it looks like. And these games are accessible to everyone and a ton of fun. A good thing that I've done this year was spend a lot of time with my family. My parents are incredibly close to me, but I don't have a lot of time that I actually see them. Sometimes I would just go home, maybe grab some salt if I didn't have any in my apartment, but I wouldn't really spend that quality of time with them. To me, wasting time feels like poison. And at a certain point, I thought, oh man, I should be out there living my best life, not spending time at home. But you know, the next thing I knew, I was looking at the future and not great. But spinning yarn is really fun because it throws you a bunch of words and it gives you this opportunity to practice speaking off the cuff. There's a bunch of other fun games, and I know we're well over, so I'll leave it there. Thank you for all the questions, and thank you for having me. And if you have any more, I'm happy to stick around for a little bit longer, and then I'll share my email, and would love to see you all in our community as well. David and Joni, I'm happy to share a link, and if you all don't mind sharing that along, that would be much appreciated as well.
We're happy to share whatever you'd like to share.
Awesome. On to questions. Andrew.
Yes. Do you work with a program called Audit Date, AUDIATE? It's from TechSmith. They do Camtasia, some other stuff. What Audit Date does is it takes audio recordings and allows you to go to those spots where you want to get rid of your ums and